The story opens in a bleak, unforgiving landscape where the defeated find no mercy. Our protagonists, once proud warriors, freedom fighters, or simply innocent civilians caught in the crossfire, have been captured by a ruthless and powerful enemy. These captors see the prisoners not as human beings, but as nothing more than tools or obstacles to be discarded. From the outset, the captives are stripped of their dignity, forced into chains and herded into cramped, squalid prisons that sap their spirit and will. The enemy's disdain is palpable. They call the captives prisoners, a label that is meant to diminish and dehumanize. This term is echoed cruelly by guards and commanders alike, reinforcing the idea that these people are worthless, broken, and defeated. The captives are treated as liabilities, expected to fade quietly into oblivion. Their bodies are beaten, their voices silenced, and their hopes dimmed under the weight of hopelessness. Within the prison walls, the conditions are brutal. Food is scarce and of poor quality, the air stale and heavy, and the cramped quarters are infested with vermin. Disease and despair run rampant. The captives come from different backgrounds: farmers, soldiers, scholars, and families, each with their own story of loss and resistance. Yet now, they all share the same harsh fate. The guards taunt them, reminding them daily of their failure to resist and the futility of hope. Despite the grim setting, the story takes care to humanize the prisoners. We see moments of quiet resilience, a whispered prayer in the dark, a shared piece of stale bread, a stolen smile among old friends. The leader of the prisoners, whether a seasoned warrior or an ordinary person thrust into extraordinary circumstances, begins to emerge. This character's inner strength and refusal to give in become a beacon for others. The leader understands that their captivity is not the end, but a crucible that will test and forge their true spirit. The enemy's arrogance is also showcased through their actions and attitudes. They celebrate their conquest with parades and proclamations, convinced that the prisoner's defeat is absolute and permanent. The captors underestimate the prisoners' resolve, viewing them as broken and powerless. This hubris is a crucial element, setting the stage for the uprising that will come. Within this chapter of the story, the tone is heavy with tension and sadness, but also with the quiet flicker of defiance. The captives may be physically restrained, but their minds and hearts begin to rebel. They exchange coded messages, observe the routines of their captors, and nurture a secret hope for freedom. The narrative builds empathy in the audience, making it clear that these prisoners are not mere victims, but future heroes. As Part 1 closes, the prisoners face an uncertain future. Their bodies are confined, but their spirits remain unbroken. The story sets up a powerful contrast between how the enemy sees them, as prisoners to be crushed, and who they truly are. The seeds of a rebellion that will one day burn down their oppressors' armies and reclaim their dignity. After the grim reality of captivity sets in, the story shifts focus to the prisoners' growing determination to resist. Though shackled and oppressed, their spirits refuse to be broken. This part captures the critical moment when despair begins to turn into hope, and hopelessness gives way to a burning desire for freedom. It is the genesis of their rebellion. Within the dark confines of the prison camp, subtle signs of resistance start to emerge. The prisoners, once silent and subdued, begin to communicate in secret, through whispered conversations, coded messages, and discreet gestures. These quiet acts of defiance may seem small, but they carry immense power. They remind the captives that they are not alone, that there is strength in unity even when the odds are stacked against them. The natural leader who surfaced during captivity becomes the rallying point for the group. This character, whether a former soldier, a visionary, or simply someone with unwavering courage, begins to inspire others. Their speeches and quiet resolve ignite a spark in the hearts of the prisoners, encouraging them to dream beyond their chains. This leader advocates for patience, discipline, and careful planning, warning that rash actions would only lead to greater suffering. The prisoners learn to trust one another, building bonds forged through shared pain and hope. Gathering resources within the prison walls is a monumental challenge. Food is meager, weapons are non-existent, and the guards remain watchful. Yet the prisoners become resourceful. They scavenge scraps, fashion makeshift tools, and practice covert training. Some secretly hone their fighting skills. Others sharpen their minds to strategize. The prisoners use every stolen moment to prepare themselves for the day when they will no longer be victims, but fighters. At the same time, the prisoners study the routines of their captors. They observe guard rotations, weaknesses in patrols, and vulnerabilities in the prison's defenses. This knowledge is invaluable. It becomes the foundation of their strategy. The captor's arrogance, their assumption that the prisoners are helpless, works to the prisoner's advantage. The enemy lets their guard down, unaware that a storm is brewing beneath the surface. Emotions run high during this time. There are moments of fear and doubt, cracks in the prisoner's resolve as they face brutal punishments or the loss of comrades. But these dark moments also strengthen their collective will. They remind each other of what they fight for: freedom, justice, and the right to live without chains. Stories of past glories, family, and dreams of a better future fuel their courage. This phase of the story also introduces smaller acts of rebellion that ripple outward. A prisoner sabotages enemy supplies, another smuggles messages to allies outside, a few manage to build rudimentary weapons. These successes, though minor, boost morale and hint at the growing power of the uprising. By the end of Part 2, the prisoners are no longer merely surviving, they are organizing. They have formed a secret, disciplined resistance within the prison walls. The narrative tension builds as the audience senses that a breaking point is near. The spark of rebellion has ignited, and soon it will burst into flames. With careful planning and a growing sense of unity, the prisoners prepare to move beyond mere survival and secret training. They are ready to fight back. Part 3 focuses on the pivotal moment when the oppressed rise up with their first decisive act of rebellion. This is the turning point that shifts them from victims to active challengers of their captors. The tension in the prison camp is thick. Every whispered conversation and secret gesture leads to this moment. The leader, now firmly established as the symbol of resistance, delivers a rallying speech that steels the resolve of the prisoners. The plan is clear but risky. A surprise attack on a small enemy outpost or patrol to seize weapons, supplies, and send a powerful message that the prisoners will no longer be subdued. The prisoners select a small, strategic target, an outpost near the prison walls, lightly guarded, but crucial for the enemy's control. Through their previous observations, they know the guards' routines, shift changes, and blind spots. Every detail is critical. The prisoners work in small, silent teams, each member with a specific role: attackers, lookouts, signalers, and those tasked with gathering the spoils. The night of the strike is fraught with danger and suspense. The prisoners move like shadows through the camp, hearts pounding but nerves steady. Their makeshift weapons and stolen tools are clutched tightly. For many, this is their first battle, their first chance to fight back after weeks or months of captivity. The attack is swift and brutal. The prisoners use the element of surprise to their advantage, overwhelming the enemy guards before they can mount a proper defense. The chaos and confusion play in their favor. Some prisoners show remarkable bravery, risking their lives to protect their comrades or retrieve crucial weapons. Others fight with a fury born from years of oppression and pain. The strike is not without cost. Some prisoners are wounded and a few may fall, but the victory is undeniable. The outpost is taken, enemy supplies are captured, and crucially the prisoners seize firearms and ammunition, turning their makeshift resistance into a better armed rebellion. This success has profound effects. First, it shatters the captors' illusion of complete control. The enemy commanders are shocked and enraged that those they labeled as prisoners could organize and execute such a bold attack. Their confidence is shaken. They begin to fear the growing strength of their captives. Second, the prisoners themselves are transformed. The taste of victory fuels their morale and unity. They see that freedom is not just a dream, but a tangible goal within reach. The prisoners begin to view themselves as warriors, not victims. This newfound confidence spreads quickly through the camp, inspiring even those who had been reluctant to join the fight. The ripple effects extend beyond the prison walls. Word of the prisoners' uprising spreads to oppressed populations and sympathizers outside who begin to offer aid, resources, and hope. The prisoners' rebellion is no longer isolated. It is becoming a beacon of resistance. However, the victory also escalates the conflict. The enemy retaliates with brutal crackdowns, harsher punishments, and increased vigilance. The prisoners must prepare for a long, grueling struggle ahead. The stakes are higher, but so is their determination. Part 3 closes on a charged note. The first strike has ignited the rebellion, but the battle is far from over. The prisoners have taken the first step toward reclaiming their freedom, setting the stage for the larger conflict to come. Following their daring first strike, the prisoners' rebellion begins to grow and spread, evolving from a small act of defiance into a widespread movement. Part 4 explores how their courage ignites others and transforms them from a captive group into a formidable resistance force, challenging the enemy's control on multiple fronts. The initial victory breathes new life into the prisoners and those suffering under the enemy's oppression beyond the prison walls. News of the uprising travels fast. Smuggled messages, sympathetic allies, and word of mouth ensure that the story of the prisoners' triumph reaches neighboring regions and other groups oppressed by the same enemy. This sparks hope and inspiration, and more people begin to resist in their own ways. Back in the prison, the rebellion becomes more organized. The leader and their trusted lieutenants develop a structured chain of command, assigning roles to prisoners based on their skills: scouts, strategists, fighters, and messengers. The group adopts new tactics, blending guerrilla-style raids with sabotage and intelligence gathering. Training intensifies and the prisoners grow stronger, both physically and mentally. New recruits arrive as well. Other captives who had previously been isolated or too fearful to join now step forward, motivated by the rebellion's successes and the promise of freedom. Their ranks swell, and with more fighters come new ideas and skills, strengthening the movement's capabilities. The prisoners are no longer isolated victims, but part of a growing community of resistance. Outside the prison walls, sympathetic villagers, underground networks, and rebel factions begin to coordinate with the prisoners. They smuggle in supplies, weapons, and vital information. These alliances bolster the prisoners' efforts, enabling them to strike more significant blows against the enemy. Sabotage of supply lines, disruption of communications, and attacks on smaller enemy outposts become more frequent and effective. The enemy, recognizing the rising threat, responds with panic and brutality. They increase patrols, tighten security, and impose harsher punishments on suspected rebels. Public executions and displays of cruelty are meant to intimidate and break the spirit of the resistance. Yet these tactics only strengthen the prisoners' resolve and galvanize more people to their cause. The enemy's violence exposes their fear and desperation, highlighting the prisoners' growing power. Inside the prison, tensions run high. The prolonged struggle takes a toll on the prisoners' bodies and minds. Losses mount and moments of despair threaten to fracture the group. Yet the leader's steadfast guidance and the prisoners' shared vision of freedom keep them united. They hold secret meetings to mourn the fallen, share stories of hope, and plan their next moves. The camaraderie formed through adversity becomes their greatest strength. This period also introduces internal challenges, disagreements over strategy, fear of betrayal, and the moral dilemmas of warfare. The prisoners grapple with difficult decisions, balancing the desire for swift victory against the need to protect innocent lives. These conflicts humanize the characters, deepening their development and the story's emotional impact. By the end of Part 4, the prisoners' rebellion has become a well-coordinated, multi-layered resistance that threatens the enemy's hold on the region. The captors can no longer dismiss them as mere prisoners. They have become leaders of a revolutionary movement. The enemy's armies, once confident of their dominance, now face a formidable foe fueled by justice, unity, and a fierce desire for freedom. The narrative tension rises as both sides prepare for an inevitable and massive confrontation. The prisoners, once powerless and condemned, stand ready to continue their fight, determined to turn the tide and reclaim their future. After months of growing resistance, secret training, and smaller victories, The story reaches its climactic point, the final decisive battle that will determine the fate of the prisoners and their oppressors. Part 5 centers on the preparation, intensity, and aftermath of this epic confrontation, where everything the rebels have fought for hangs in the balance. The prisoners, now transformed into a disciplined and battle-hardened force, know that victory will not come easily. Their enemy is larger, better equipped, and desperate to crush the rebellion once and for all. The prisoners understand that this fight will demand everything they have: courage, strategy, sacrifice, and unity. In the days leading up to the battle, the leader convenes their commanders and fighters to finalize their plan. Every detail is scrutinized: attack routes, timing, division of forces, communication signals, and contingencies. The prisoners have learned from every skirmish and setback, and now they use that knowledge to maximize their advantage. The final target is the enemy's main stronghold, a fortress or command center that serves as the heart of their military power in the region. Its capture would cripple the enemy's ability to control the surrounding lands and send a message that their reign of terror is over. The battle begins at dawn. The prisoners launch a coordinated assault from multiple directions, striking with precision and ferocity. The element of surprise is key, but the enemy, anticipating the rebels' audacity, fights fiercely to defend their last bastion. The fighting is brutal and chaotic. The prisoners, wielding both their reclaimed weapons and newly acquired arms from allies, press forward despite heavy casualties. The enemy unleashes its full strength: soldiers, siege weapons, and brutal tactics designed to break the rebels' spirit. Yet, the prisoners' determination and unity prove to be an unyielding force. Individual acts of heroism and sacrifice abound. Fighters shield their comrades, cover retreats, and lead charges that turn the tide. The leader, a symbol of hope and resilience, fights alongside their people, inspiring them to push beyond exhaustion and pain. Bonds forged through suffering become the foundation of an unbreakable front. As the battle rages on, the prisoners use their intimate knowledge of the enemy's weaknesses, gained through months of observation and sabotage, to exploit vulnerabilities in the fortress's defenses. They breach gates, sabotage weapon stores, and dismantle communication lines, slowly unraveling the enemy's control. After hours of relentless combat, the tide turns decisively in favor of the prisoners. The enemy's forces begin to falter, their morale shattered by the rebels' unrelenting spirit and tactical brilliance. The once feared armies are reduced to disarray and chaos. In a dramatic climax, the prisoners capture the fortress's command center. The enemy leader is either captured, defeated, or forced to flee, signaling the collapse of their regime. The prisoners, against all odds, have turned their chains into weapons and their despair into a flame that burns down the armies that once held them captive. The victory, however, comes at a great cost. Many lives are lost, and the survivors carry the weight of their fallen comrades. Yet this sacrifice is honored as the price of freedom and justice. Part 5 closes with the prisoners standing victorious but solemn. Their battle has ended, but their journey to rebuild and heal is just beginning. The enemy's armies have been turned to ash, but the true work of reclaiming their lives and land lies ahead. With the enemy's forces defeated and their fortress reduced to ruins, the prisoners turned rebels stand victorious, but their journey is far from over. Part 6 focuses on the aftermath of the battle, exploring the themes of freedom, rebuilding, and the legacy left by those who dared to fight against oppression. The immediate aftermath is a mix of relief, grief, and hope. The survivors gather among the ashes of what was once a symbol of tyranny. They mourn the loss of comrades who gave their lives in the struggle for freedom. The scars of battle, both physical and emotional, are evident on every face. Yet, amid the pain, there is a powerful sense of accomplishment. The chains that once bound them are broken, and the oppressive regime has crumbled. Now free, the rebels face the daunting task of rebuilding a shattered community. The war has left infrastructure destroyed, homes burnt, and families displaced. The leaders of the rebellion, including the original prisoner leader, must shift from warriors to statespeople, guiding the survivors toward recovery and renewal. They organize efforts to rebuild homes, restore farms and markets, and provide care for the wounded and orphaned. This period highlights the resilience of the human spirit. Despite the hardships, the community begins to heal through cooperation and shared purpose. Former prisoners work side by side with freed civilians and allies who joined their cause. Together they lay the foundations of a new society, one built on justice, equality, and freedom, in stark contrast to the oppressive rule they overthrew. The story also explores the emotional and psychological challenges of freedom. After years of captivity and war, many struggle to adjust to peace. Some wrestle with trauma, loss, and the uncertainty of the future. The leader and their comrades recognize the importance of healing, not only the land, but the hearts and minds of their people. They establish councils, support networks, and traditions that honor the fallen while nurturing hope. The legacy of the rebellion becomes a central theme. The story emphasizes how the courage of a few can inspire many. The prisoners' transformation from captive victims to victorious liberators serves as a powerful symbol for generations to come. Songs, stories, and monuments commemorate their struggle and sacrifice, ensuring their fight is never forgotten. The leader, who carried the hopes of many through dark times, now becomes a guardian of peace and justice. Their journey, from prisoner to warrior to statesperson, embodies the triumph of resilience and leadership. They mentor the next generation, encouraging them to uphold the values fought for in the rebellion. Part 6 also addresses the broader impact of the rebellion beyond their own community. Neighboring regions and oppressed groups see the uprising as a beacon of possibility. Alliances formed during the rebellion strengthen, creating a network of support that promises to defend freedom against future threats. The story closes with a sense of cautious optimism, a recognition that while freedom has been won, the work to protect and nurture it is ongoing. In the final scenes, the narrator reflects on the meaning of their journey. They remind the audience that those who called them prisoners tried to erase their identity and hope, but instead, those very chains became the catalyst for an unstoppable force. The rebels turned their oppressors' armies to ash, but more importantly, they reclaimed their humanity and their destiny,